Good morning, Hampton Roads. How's everybody doing today? And welcome to Virginia's only local real estate investing podcast, where we get to talk about local investors, local deals, and all things local. I'm your host, the founder of the Master Investor Academy, and author of my best-selling book, Work Just Gets in the Way of Making Money, Scott Jelinek. If you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, things you'd like to discuss, you can go ahead and text me directly at 757-699-4227. That's 757-699-4227. And I'd be happy to answer it for you either through text or right here on the show. So a couple of things I want to talk to you about today, but one is the big one. First sign of a loser. And this may sound harsh to people, but it's something I've been thinking about today because I'm having something going over and over and over again. But before we get into that, I just wanted to say what was going on today. So I have I took care of some of that work I told you about at that house in Newport News. I had a guy come out and do it all. It's $350, which was a lot cheaper than the city would have charged if I had let them do it. All he did basically was just clean out. There was a lot of debris and some appliances and some stuff there. And I'm still on schedule now to meet the city at 11 o'clock Monday morning. So if you don't hear from me Tuesday, call down to the Newport News police station and see if they have me in custody. Maybe you can come and bust me out. Anyway, so went over to a flip today that one of our guys is doing. Actually, I just posted a video of it. If you are on the YouTube channel, his finished product. I think he said he's making $47,000 on it. It's pretty nice. I posted the before video. I guess it was like in January when we were doing a walkthrough when it was being demoed. So if you didn't see that, go back and watch the demo video so you can get your head wrapped around what it looked like before and what it looks like now. Had lunch over at Qdoba today. I think that might have been my first time in there. It's kind of like, I don't know if you'd call it a knockoff, but it's kind of like a Chipotle knockoff. I don't know which came first, so maybe it's not a knockoff, but it's very similar. If you didn't know you weren't in Chipotle, you would pretty much think you were. It's more or less the same menu, same setup, same everything. I thought it was pretty good, though. I was over at Ward's Corner, so it seemed to be the best place I could find to eat over there. Another thing, well, I think I told you about this big deal I have coming. Today is Friday. We are right now scheduled, I believe, to close on that this coming Tuesday. My fingers are crossed. I'm not trying not to tell you too many details about the deal until it is closed, but I look forward to telling you because it is an absolutely fantastic deal. And one other thing I wanted to tell you is I just booked tickets to go to, I think you guys know, my son's a huge Mississippi State fan. Well, this upcoming weekend is what they call Bulldog or Super Dog weekend or Bulldog, whatever it's called, Super Bulldog weekend. That's what it is, Super Bulldog weekend. It's their homecoming, and so they have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday games. Very hard to get tickets for, but so far I got tickets for Friday's game and Sunday's game. Still haven't been able to find them for Saturday's game yet, but there is a football game Saturday, which is just between the team. I guess they split them up and play each other. So if we can't get Saturday tickets, we're going to just go to the football game instead. But highly, highly looking forward to it. That's going to be next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I'm looking forward to that. So what I wanted to talk to you about today, and I'll tell you how it came up and why I'm even discussing this today, is the first sign of a loser. And this is something that's interesting. And I know this may sound harsh, but I mean this really seriously. I can talk to somebody, and sometimes in the first 5 minutes, sometimes it's the first 50 seconds, just from the words they use, I could already tell the type of person they are. And what I mean by that, what I say is the first sign of a loser is an excuse. It's somebody who's not taking responsibility for anything. And sometimes it's not their fault. And this is where I have a hard time conveying this to people, is it doesn't matter if it's your fault. You still have to take responsibility. And so therefore, I always say, I said, the first sign of a loser is an excuse. As soon as someone's telling me, and I heard it today just a couple times, well, that's easy for you, but I have bad credit, or I don't have any money to get started, or they start telling me all the reasons why they can't do this. You can't argue with those reasons, because you know what? If you believe you can't do it, you might as well stop now. You're right. You can't do it. And, I think it was Henry Ford's quote when he said, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, either way, you're right. And I love that saying. And I think about it all the time because I talk to people, and sometimes in the very first sentence, they're literally telling me why they can't be successful and why they can't do it and what happened to them when they were 8 years old. And now this is going to affect their ability to be a grown-up and do deals, whatever it may be. Yes, stuff happens. And yes, people have different situations in their lives, but you have to take responsibility for yourself, period. There are no excuses. And let me tell you something else about fault. And this is this is a conversation I have often with people, and the difference between fault and responsibility. And I think this is really important for you to understand and know the differences. So sometimes, especially if you're dealing with a child, but there are grownups that you will see do the same thing all the time. They will like to say it's not my fault. And this year is a great example, or last year, this Corona. It's not my fault. It's not my fault we had Corona hit. It's not my fault the market collapsed in 2008. It's not my fault the tenants didn't pay and trashed the house. It's not my fault, whatever. And you're right, it's not your fault. But it doesn't change the fact that it's still your responsibility. And so I have a challenge sometimes conveying that to people. And what I came up with as my best way of trying to convey fault and responsibility, I say this to people. I say, let's suppose you're sitting in your house, you're watching TV or eating dinner, whatever, minding your own business, and the doorbell rings. You go to the door and you open it up, and there is a baby in a basket on your front porch. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything. You were sitting there minding your own business, eating dinner, right? It is not your fault. There's nothing that you could have done to change it. You didn't do anything to cause it. All you were doing was sitting there, watching TV, eating dinner, whatever. Not your fault, but it is your responsibility. You cannot just shut that door now and go back to your meal. Doesn't mean you have to raise the kid as your own, but you have a responsibility to do something, even if it's just calling the police or calling Child Protective Services or whatever you're going to do. You now have a responsibility, even though it wasn't your fault. And I hope I'm conveying that properly to you. And I try and get this through to people all the time because I hear it today especially. I had several different people that text me something. Just from the text, I can tell you're already telling me why you're not going to be successful. I'm like, so why are you even doing this? You're telling me that you are not going to be successful because of whatever reason. And I'm like, so why are we even having this conversation? You already decided it's not going to work. And I feel the exact opposite. I literally feel like absolutely anybody can do this. Anybody can be successful. It doesn't matter if you have no money, no credit, no anything. Anybody can do it. So I had this conversation today with somebody talking to me about capital. Well, I have no money and I'm only 22 years old and my credit score is this, but I really want to start buying. And so I conveyed back that and mind you, this is social media. So you got to watch on social media because the what do they call it? The people come out and they love to be keyboard warriors. Well, anyway, so I responded to him that you can buy houses with no money and no credit. I've been doing it. I haven't used a bank to buy a house since 2006. So yes, you can absolutely buy houses with no money and no credit. Well, then it got into a whole thing with people saying, oh, Scott solved homelessness now. There's a way for everybody to buy a house without having any money or credit. And it became a whole thing. And all I'm thinking is, yes, it's absolutely right. If you're willing to be educated, if you're willing to do the work, be educated, learn the ways to do it. Absolutely. You can do it with no money, no credit. You don't have to have a resume. It doesn't matter if you're a high school dropout or you have a Harvard degree. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have an 850 credit score or a 450. Doesn't matter. What matters is you learned how to do it. You found good deals and you went out and did the work. And so I don't want to harp on this to death, but it literally was getting to me today. I read several comments coming back in, and people that aren't willing to learn want to make fun of the fact that, yes, you can buy with no money and no credit. They think it's a fancy sales pitch that, what was it? Carlton Sheets put on the name of his course, No Money Down, that you can buy houses with no money. Well, guess what? I have the course, and yes, you can buy houses with no money. I do it all the time. And so I cannot stress that to you enough, that when you're talking to somebody, and this is why I decided to do this, because I'm not talking to them, I'm talking to you here. When you are going out or you're having this conversation, I want to make sure that you choose your words so that you're never the one saying that. Don't ever start off with trying to explain to somebody why they can do it, but you can't, or why you're not going to be successful at it, or why that's easy for them, but it's not going to work for you, or I'm in a different market, or it was easier back then, or if only I had good credit, or whatever it is. All you need to say is other people are doing it. If other people can do it, that means I can do it. I just got to figure out what they're doing. Simple as that. That's always been the way I am with everything. I'm like, listen, I don't have to be the best at anything. I just have to know it's possible. It means someone else is able to do it. That means I can do it. I just need to figure out what they know. That's it. It all comes down to education. So I don't want to beat the horse to death on this, but I wanted to make sure to share that with you so that, in fact, you don't ever become that person. If you're feeling like you don't know how to, that means you need to learn it. Not to say, oh, it won't work because of X. Just means you need to figure out how to make it work. There's the big difference between fault and responsibility, and excuses are for losers. That's it. The only people who make an excuse are losers. You will never find successful people who talk about anything is not their fault, ever. You'll never find it. Doesn't matter what happens. My bookkeeper ripped me off. Well, it's my fault for not checking on her better. It was my fault for hiring her in the first place. It was my fault. It's my fault. My fault. You always have to take responsibility, even though she was the one who did it. It's your fault. Everything comes down to you. If you want to be successful, you have to be responsible for everything. Then you're in control. Then you can make change. You have to be responsible. That's all I got for you guys today. I'm sorry for harping on you on this, but it was important that I got that out. I want to make sure that you aren't the ones that are conveying that same type of message, because we can smell it a mile away. When you're talking to somebody and all you're hearing is excuses, we already know you're right. You're not going to be successful. And I hate to feel that way, but I'm like, I can tell just because of the words coming out of your mouth. So you make sure on your path and on your journey that those words never come out of your mouth. If you have not done so already, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Click the like button so that I know you're out there. Leave me a review if you're listening on the podcast, because I greatly appreciate it. And if you know of anybody that you think would benefit from this, please go ahead and share it with them. Helps me get this out to more people. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. I will see you soon.